Charlie Kirk laments German conservatives are too scared to be radical because they've been told their grandfather did something really bad. Yeah. I mean, why should anyone try to learn from history, right? Quit being a bunch of Germany. I know you guys were Nazis once upon a time, boo-hoo. But don't take steps to avoid going down that path again. Just do it. Come on. This time it'll be different. Roll the dice again. All right, cool. Let's hear it.
And they're going to constantly keep doing this until.
Well, I think, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because I think that's the only fear with constantly saying there'll be a boomerang and backfire, because I think it's an excuse for inaction, not for you, but some people. I mean, I was talking to somebody recently. They said, well, this is going to backfire. We can't be as bad as them. It's okay if they indict Trump and they do all. It's not okay. It's bad. But eventually we'll be able to fix it through long-term cultural change. What you're suggesting is no. The only thing they understand is handcuffs and prison time. And it's long past time the Democrat Mafia starts to actually have to go through the same sort of punitive process that they're doing to us.
They're doing to you? I mean, last I checked, Trump has not even been arrested. Second of all, he did like 1,000,001 things that were arrestable. Third of all, even if he does get arrested, it's probably just going to be like, he's going to go in, turn himself in, get bailed out immediately, and be right out. And that's going to be pretty much all there is to it. Because no politician in this country really wants to rock the boat of let's start jailing our political opponents. Because then the next thing you know, that's going to be, I mean, we're probably already to the point where that is just going to become the new thing that they're constantly doing to each other. Is like, I'm going to put you in jail. No, I'm going to put you in jail. No, I'm going to put you in jail. No, I'm going to put you in jail. You're all going to jail. But the idea that this is like some like normal Democrat tactic that like Democrats are putting Republicans in jail left and right, and it's about time that the Republicans stood up for themselves, like that is not true. In fact, the first person I remember raising this as a specter in the first place was Donald Trump, when he said, I think on the second debate, that he was going to lock Hillary up. And ever since then, lock her up has been a popular chant in, Trump crowds. So if anyone, is guilty of injecting this sort of I'm going to throw you in jail rhetoric into American politics, it's Donald Trump himself. So it'd be actually pretty fitting and funny if he were the one to suffer the brunt of it. But I just want to say once again that I'm super ashamed to share a last name with Charlie Kirk, who is by far one of the dumbest, most cretinous sacks of shit to ever exist on the face of the earth.
Yeah, I called it the dead chicken strategy during the Kavanaugh confirmation. You have to, when I clerked for Justice Gorsuch, Justice Thomas told us when he grew up on the farm in Georgia, when dogs killed chickens, you would wrap that dead chicken around that dog's neck. And as it rotted around that dog's neck, that dog lost the taste for chicken. And we need to do the same thing.
What? Okay. Yeah, wrap that dead chicken around that dog's neck. And what that's going to do is eventually that dog going to lose the taste for chicken. Like, what? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's true. I'd have to look into that.
To Democrats, wrap those dead chickens around their necks, start indicting George Soros funded groups, BLM and Antifa leaders who are clearly violent, clearly committing tax evasion. We need to stop being weak and stupid on the right.
Yeah, I mean, how is it, in what galaxy?
In what galaxy is what you guys are talking about even tangentially related to reality? That's what I want to know. I mean, they're basically sitting here just saying like, we need to jail our political opponents. We now have the pretext to do it. If they prosecute Trump for his payoff to that porn star, then we now have all of the pretext and justification we need to start jailing everybody we don't like. I mean, like, is this really what the road we want to go down as a country? We just want to go down the road of like, you disagree with me, you belong in jail. I mean, I'm far from a white flag waving, let's hold hands, kumbaya, we are the world, motherfucker. But like, maybe let's draw the line at locking everybody up in jail. maybe let's draw the line. Like, maybe not everybody, maybe disagreeing with you is not a crime. Maybe we could just say that.
Is it just that Hunter Biden continues to walk free and Donald Trump faces an indictment?
What do they want Hunter Biden locked up for? I hear all the time Hunter Biden, his laptop, you see that? All I know about Hunter Biden's laptop is he got money through nepotism, which every politician's kid does. Not a great thing, but hardly anything other than par for the course. He used to be a drug addict. Okay. Many Americans are or have been drug addicts. Obviously, drugs are illegal, but in my opinion, they shouldn't be. But there's no evidence that he's actively like fiending for crack at this point. So I don't really know. You want to put him in jail for that? Or you're going to try to be like, you smoked crack 6 years ago or whatever. You need to be locked up. I mean, does that make sense? And then I saw you got a foot job. You know, there was some girl that wrapped her feet around his dick and gave him a little foot job. And, I don't think that's illegal. So, like, what did he do? What is he going to go to jail for again? What's the crime here? I mean, I guess, yeah, smoking crack is a crime, but, like, he's not actively smoking crack to this day as far as we know. And if he is, I mean, I still say leave him alone, but at least that would be a crime.
I mean, that right there is an insult to every Republican AG. And I know a lot of these people, and I've talked to them, and I get nothing but excuses, Mike. I get nothing but excuses from local DAs. Meanwhile, they have Trump in Fulton County. They got Trump here. And
I mean, maybe what you're considering excuses from the DAs is them looking at what you have and being like, there's nothing here that's prosecutable. There's nothing here that's actually criminal. So then they're just like, well, come on, there's got to be something. I mean, there's the crack, but that's years ago. I mean, well, maybe he's still doing it. It's like, do you have any proof of that? No.
I mean, it's an interesting question. Is it because, Mike, the conservative movement is filled with so many weak, low-energy neoliberals that think we...
Man. I don't know. I love that all of these conservatives are trying to out-crazy each other at all times. It's like, man, you seen these other conservatives? Bunch of spineless little pussies. And meanwhile, there's about 1 million and one of these guys that would call Charlie Kirk a spineless little pussy. Don't have the balls to speak the real truth. And then there's 1 million and one people who would look at those guys and say that. I mean, so this is just ridiculous. There's not even a difference between these people. If you listen to the rhetoric of Matt Walsh to Charlie Kirk to Michael Knowles to Ben Shapiro to Steven Crowder to Tucker Carlson, they all say virtually 99.9% of the exact same shit. And when they occasionally deviate and have a different opinion, like it very rarely amounts to much. So I don't even really understand what the actual issue that they have with each other is. I really think it's just each and every one of them feels the need to, even though they're ideologically identical to all of their contemporaries, they all feel the need to put it out there that they are the true conservative. I'm the real motherfucker. These other ones are weak because they won't do what I say. These other ones are weak because they won't use my strategy.
Still live in the 1980s?
Yeah, probably 1990s. Let's give them some credit. I think they're stuck in the 1990s. White Republican men in the South and also lawyers are the weakest people on the planet, right?
What? If I said that, or any sort of liberal or leftist out there said that, you guys would be like, no, we're not. Nonsense. But when it's convenient in your narrative, all of a sudden it's like, listen, guys, we've been too weak, too tolerant, too kind, too understanding, too compassionate for too long. And these libs and lefties are using, well, they're just calling they use those interchangeably. And these leftists, these Maoists out there, they've been using our compassion and our love and our tolerance against us. It's like, no, they haven't. You don't have any. That's not the issue we have with you guys. When we on the left look at right wingers, we're not like, look at those bunch of soft-hearted so-and-sos. We could easily manipulate them and with all their sentimentality. No, we see a bunch of evil spawns of Satan that are, chomping at the bit to send us back to the Dark Ages. And we hate you, and we want to fight you like hell because as far as we're concerned, you are the worst. So this idea that we're playing on to your sympathies, we would never play to your sympathies because we know you don't have any.
They are, well, I don't want to say it on your air, but they need to find their backbones, and they need to start fighting back because we're going to lose our country if we don't fight back.
Why do you think that is? I mean, I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush. You said it, but is it kind of, is it the post-World War II German syndrome that they grew up just being told they're horrible people their whole life, so they just kind of cower in a corner and they're constantly being I mean, that's at least what I get when I meet with German conservatives. They're always like afraid to be too radical because they were told that their grandfather did something really.
He was covering his ass there. He basically just admitted that they have a direct ideological line to the Nazis. Because at first he just said it as like conservatives in general, and then he modified it like, when I meet German conservatives. It's like, no, you were talking about all conservatives. So it's pretty obvious that even Charlie Kirk, in his heart of hearts, knows that there is a direct ideological lineage from Nazism to him. In fact, the lineage is he's a Nazi. They're all Nazis. Surprise. And yeah, I know a lot of people don't like it when you say that. It's so hyperbolic, blah, 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 blah. Look, I know that there's a lot of voters out there who are Republican voters who are not Nazis, who are just dumb, who are just easily deceived. But when it comes to the people who are putting this stuff out there into the world, there's two kinds. There's the grifter class, and there's the true believer class, and the true believers are almost all Nazis, or at least Nazi apologists, or think like, a lot of the stuff the Nazis did wasn't too bad. They made some mistakes, but a lot of the stuff they did was actually pretty based, And they believe that. And, it's always evident because every time you see a Nazi talking point, like Michael Knowles goes out there and says, like, we need to eradicate transgenderism. And then that's correctly identified as genocidal rhetoric. And then he backpedals and says, no, it's not genocidal rhetoric. And then in the comment section, you see people that are like, well, it'd be kind of based if it was, though. Because those people are always waiting in the wings. Those opportunists are always there's all these people that are like this far right fringe, and it's not really I shouldn't even use the word fringe because it's not really a fringe, but the far right is a sizable chunk of the right, but a lot of them know to hide their power levels. But as they feel more and more like they're losing the demographic battle for the country, and as they feel more and more emboldened by what happened with Donald Trump. And, what happened on January 6th and the sort of like new tactics that he opened up for them as a party, the new viabilities, and they realize like, wow, we can get away with saying a lot more stuff than we used to be able to get away with saying because people have forgotten the lessons of history. They're going more and more mask off. And that's why Charlie Kirk basically just let it slip. Hey, yeah, we're direct ideological lineage of Nazis. I mean, just listen to this. He doesn't bring up the German stuff is something he adds afterwards to make it make sense because he realized it sounded a little sussy.
Just being told they're horrible people. Is it the post-World War II German syndrome that they grew up just being told they're horrible people their whole life, so they just kind of cower in a corner and they're constantly being I mean, that's at least.
Yeah. So he prescribes that as why all conservatives are cowards in his view because they won't jail their political opponents. Here's a guy saying that conservatives don't want to jail their political opponents because they're too scared of being perceived like Nazis. And then he kind of realizes like, oh, that doesn't really sound great. So then he modifies it to like, well, I'm talking about German conservatives.
That's what I get when I meet with German conservatives.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like, come on. Why would a non-German conservative feel that way? Because you didn't apply it to just German conservative. You used the word German, but you applied it to all conservatives. Why would all conservatives feel pressured by what happened with the Nazis? Why would they be acutely aware of that as they undergo certain actions, like, say, jailing political opponents? You know what I mean? So, and, you know, like, as far as I'm concerned, Donald Trump probably, you know, you could put him in jail. Most of these politicians that are, you know, Democrats, tie-up Democrats, Hillary Clinton, yeah, you could put her in jail. There's definitely things you could do. Pretty much any president. There's stuff you could point at and be like, you broke this law, this law, this law, and this law. But people at that echelon seem to be immune from prosecution. And even if you look at what Trump is currently being prosecuted for, it's not any of the stuff he did that was, you know, it's the same thing like with Bill Clinton. Like, they find the sex thing. They love the sex thing. Like, Bill Clinton did a lot of up stuff in office like any president does, because politicians are scum and the president is inherently the best politician in the land. So they do a lot of scumbaggy stuff, but it seems like the stuff that always gets them is like, you got a blowjob in the Oval Office, you gave hush money to a porn star. Like, how is that? Like, that's the only time we feel comfortable going at them in any real way on either side of the aisle. So I don't know. I don't know why that is. I feel like it'd be better to go after Trump for some of the substantive stuff he did. I feel like maybe go after him for January 6th instead, to send the message that that's what's not acceptable, because paying hush money to a porn star, not that big of a deal in my book. Not that big of a deal as far as I'm concerned.
Always like afraid.
But, you know, putting Trump in jail and going all the way to let's just jail every political rival we got, two very different things. And I don't think that either side ultimately benefits from a system wherein politicians are going to jail. Maybe we, the people, would benefit from that, but I feel like the powerful political insiders kind of don't want accountability. That's probably a big part of the reason why they became powerful insiders in the first place. They don't want to answer to other people. So,
to be too radical because they were told that their grandfather did something really bad. I mean, is that a fair comparison?
They are so
Why can't I hear it?
Of being accused of being racist or sexist or, you know, anti-gay or whatever the issue is, that they're paralyzed by this fear. And what they need to do is say, you know what? Democrats accuse everyone of being racist and sexist and homophobic and transphobic.
I mean, yeah, we're not going. They accuse us of being racist and sexist and homophobic anyway, so we might as well just do it. Like, that's the logic here. Well, maybe that's because that's an accurate description of you. You're literally on this show chomping at the bit to go lock up BLM people. So, like, yeah, it kind of comes across like you might be racist, dog. When you're literally in the midst of a discussion about how all of your political opponents and all of the people who disagree with you should be jailed because they're all just evil, then that kind of comes across like you might have some like bigotry up in there. You know what I mean? And then it's like this is like an amazing thing that Republicans especially seem good at. They say something insanely racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever. They unleash some bigoted tirade. And then you say you're a bigot, and then they say, oh yeah, well, if you're going to call me a bigot, I guess I might as well act like a bigot. It's like you already were. Now you're saying that me reacting to it is now a post hoc justification for it. How does that work, you psycho?